The sizzle of steaks was loud, but not louder than his voice. "Hey, Madison?" That smirk. Trouble coming. "You're old enough to pay rent or get out. This isn't a charity." Laughter. Not just his. Denise, my stepmother. Tyler, my half-brother, cracking open a beer like he'd just heard the joke of the year. My hands crushed the paper plate I was holding. Not just the words, the timing. Neighbors in the yard. He wanted them to hear. He wanted me humiliated. I set the plate down slowly. "You've been taking half my paycheck for years, Dad. I've been paying the bills." He did that fake shrug. "So? That's called life. If you don't like it, find somewhere else to live." Tyler chuckled. "Good luck with that." The air was thick, grilled meat, and betrayal. Eyes on me from across the yard. They thought I'd stay quiet, cry later. Not this time. I stepped closer. The grill flames lit his smirk. "Fine," I said. Low, sharp. "You want me gone? You'll get your wish." He laughed, waving tongs like I was a fly. "Yeah, where you gonna go? That apartment that fell apart? You got no savings, Madison." They didn't know. Didn't know I'd been working on this for months. Didn't know I already had the keys to my own house. The rest of the BBQ blurred. Forced smiles, whispers. But in my mind, plans were snapping into place. By the time the last burger was gone, I decided. I wasn't dragging this out. If he wanted me gone, he was going to see just how far gone I could be. And when I left, I'd take more than my things. I'd take the comfort he thought he controlled. The sizzle of steaks kept going. So did the echo of his line. "Pay rent or get out." It didn't just land. It sliced. In front of everyone. Denise laughed first. Head tilted, lips pulled tight. Tyler leaned back, popped a beer, grinning like this was primetime TV. Paper edges cut into my palm. I set the plate down so gently you'd think it was porcelain. "You've been taking half my paycheck for years, Dad. I've been paying the bills." He did that big shrug. Exaggerated, mocking. "So that's called life. If you don't like it, find somewhere else to live." Tyler snorted. "Good luck with that." Neighbors pretended to study the grill, the garden, the clouds, but their ears were right here with us. He wanted that. He wanted me small. Flames licked up under the grate, lighting his smirk. "Fine," I said, low, sharp. "You want me gone? You'll get your wish." He laughed, twirling the tongs like a conductor. "Yeah, where you gonna go? Back to your little apartment that fell apart? You've got no savings, Madison." The air smelled like meat and metal, and something darker. Disgust. Betrayal. Faces turned away, but I could feel them. Eyes skimming over me like I was a note on a bulletin board. Pay or leave. The rest of the evening blurred. Clinks of bottles. Forced smiles. Whispered gossip threading through the yard. But in my head, the noise fell away until there was only one clear thing left. A key in my pocket and a line I was about to cross. He didn't know I'd been working on this for months. He didn't know I'd just gotten the keys to my own house. Not an apartment. A house. White siding. Wraparound porch. 2 stories. Small. Beautiful. I moved through the motions. Collect cups, stack plates, nod at neighbors who wouldn't meet my eyes. Every nod said the same thing. "We saw. We won't say." Fine. They didn't have to. He caught my eye once across the smoke. The smirk had settled into certainty. He believed his line had closed the door on me. It didn't. It opened another one. When the last laugh faded and the grill hissed itself to sleep, I went inside. My room was the same as it had been that morning. Bed, dresser, a stack of boxes I'd labeled weeks ago, quiet letters in black marker waiting for the right day. Tonight was the right day. No scene, no stomping. Tape pulled, smooth and steady. Fold, stack, close. I wasn't packing a fight. I was packing an exit. I could still hear them outside. Boots on grass, a burst of laughter, a door slam, engines turning over. Then silence. Thin walls, heavy history. On my desk, the folder where I kept everything that ever proved I wasn't imagining it. Cost shares, transfers. Just this month. We'll square it later. Later never came. Pay rent or get out. I stood there with the keys in my hand until the metal warmed to skin temperature. I looked at the door, at the mirror, at the girl in it who'd said please too many times. Enough. I slept in fragments, not from sadness, from adrenaline. You don't fall asleep in a house you're leaving. You count breaths until the sun gives you permission. Morning showed up clean. No announcements, no apologies. Just light. I lifted the last box into the car. Cardboard rubbed my forearms. The trunk thumped shut. No one came out. No Denise at the door with a dish towel pretending surprise. No dad on the steps with a lecture dressed up as concern. Tyler didn't look up from his screen. Fine. The driveway felt shorter in reverse. I didn't check the mirror. I didn't need one more look at a place that only called me family when a bill was due. Road, trees, open sky. Every mile stretched my lungs, like there had been a hand on my chest I hadn't noticed until it let go. The house was smaller than the dream and bigger than the fear. White siding catching the light. The wraparound porch waiting like a held breath. My key slid in, turned, clicked. Inside, quiet, not the heavy kind. The good kind. I put the deed on the kitchen counter, a thin rectangle that weighed more than the last few years combined. I stood with my palms flat on the countertop and let the silence run its course. No TV blaring. No orders shouted from another room. No voice telling me what I owed. For a second, I didn't move. I just listened to my own breathing. It didn't sound like someone apologizing. My phone lit up with a name. His. Then hers. Then his again. I watched the screen go bright and dim, like a heartbeat I wasn't syncing to anymore. I didn't answer. I sent one line, simple and clean. I've moved out. The bills are yours now. Delivering that message felt like shutting a valve. Pressure dropped. My spine found its height. I put the phone face down and walked the rooms. Small bedroom, warm light, stairs that didn't creak with judgment. A front door that would only open when I wanted it to. Every step said the same thing, mine. Funny how pain looks different in good light. It's still there. You just see where it came from. It didn't start at the BBQ. That was the public version. The show. The laughs, the smirk, the tongs waving like a baton. Under it, years of help us out. Years of my pay slipping into accounts that didn't have my name on the mailbox. Years of a little rent that turned into half, then more, and then, since you're already handling it, can you add? They called it family. I called it a drain. Pay rent or get out. He chose the loudest way to say what he'd been saying for a long time. You're useful or you're gone. He didn't expect I'd pick gone. He didn't expect gone would look like a porch with space for a chair. I opened the kitchen window. Air moved in. Clean. No debt attached. I made coffee in a mug with no history. Steam curled up in the sunlight like it had somewhere to be. I let myself remember that moment by the grill exactly as it happened. The sizzle. The smirk. Good luck with that. Laughter folding over itself. I didn't cry. Not because I'm strong, because the part of me that cried over them had finally gone quiet. I wasn't a villain for leaving. I wasn't a savior for staying. I was a person who had been paying the bills and had decided to stop being the bill. Neighbors back there would trade stories about last night. Who said what? Who laughed? Who looked away? Let them. I rinsed the mug, set it on the rack, and pulled my laptop closer on the counter beside the deed. The screen woke up to my reflection. Same face, different life. I didn't touch the accounts yet. Not today. Today was for breathing. For feeling what a room sounds like when your name is on the paper. My phone buzzed again. Same names. Same urgency that never used to show up when I needed anything. I let it ring out. Then set Do Not Disturb. I walked out onto the porch and leaned against the railing. Street quiet. A bird somewhere. A truck in the distance that wasn't his. I thought about the line I hadn't said out loud at the BBQ, but had carved into the center of me. You don't get to decide whether I stay small. They liked me small. Small people are easy to bill. I wasn't small anymore. The porch boards were warm under my feet. The railing fit under my hands like something made to be held. Pay rent or get out. He meant pay and be quiet. He got out. There was a version of me that would have gone back to smooth it over. Take the edge off his temper. Send a transfer just this month. Keep the lights on at a house where I couldn't breathe. That version didn't make it past the front steps of this place. I picked up the deed again, traced the letters of my name with one fingertip, then put it down exactly where it belonged. Right then, a thin smile found me. Not triumph, not revenge, just relief that didn't ask permission. Somewhere between the grill smoke and this sunlight, I had crossed a line I could not uncross. Good. The phone lit up one more time. I didn't turn it over. I didn't need to know who it was to know what it wanted. I already told them what they needed to hear. I've moved out. The bills are yours now. The words sat there between us like a locked door. Inside the house, the air held steady. Outside somewhere, the story I used to live in kept spinning, louder, messier, needier. It didn't belong to me anymore. I took one long breath that went all the way down and stayed there. Not relief, not yet, but the first inhale in years that didn't feel like I owed someone for it. I wasn't done. I was just done being theirs. And the next thing I did would make that very clear. The first morning in my new house was quiet. Too quiet. Not the heavy, tense kind I grew up in. The kind where silence carried the weight of something unsaid. This was stillness. No stomping boots on the stairs. No TV blasting a sports recap. No Denise shouting about a missing receipt like it was a national crisis. Just me. And the coffee maker. Steam curled into sunlight spilling across the counter. I let myself watch it a little too long. Like if I blinked, it would disappear. The phone buzzed. I didn't turn it over. A few minutes later, it buzzed again. Then again. Persistent, urgent. I flipped it. Unknown number. Then Dad's name. Then Denise. Voicemails stacked. Dad, the electric's off. Call us back. Denise, if you care about this family, you'll fix this today. I set the phone down. Let it ring itself out. They were just now learning what I had known for years. Bills don't pay themselves. And they never cared how I kept them paid, as long as it wasn't their problem. By noon, the knock came. 3 sharp raps on the door. I checked the camera. Denise. Alone. Sunglasses covering half her face. I opened the door just enough to see her mouth. What do you want? Her smile was too quick, too thin. We need the car insurance in your name for just a few more days. Tyler's got an interview. I already moved it to my address. It's my policy. If Tyler's driving, he needs his own. Her jaw twitched. You're punishing us. No, I said, leaning against the frame. I'm refusing to be punished anymore. She blinked, caught off guard by my calm. Your father's furious. You know, he's only like this because he's stressed. The shop closing. That shop closed 3 years ago, I cut in. He's had 3 years to stop leaning on me like a crutch. Her mask slipped for a second. Eyes hard. You'll regret this, sooner than you think. I closed the door without answering. Listened to the sound of her heels on the porch until the air swallowed it. That night, I was unpacking a box in the living room when my phone lit up with an email alert. Suspicious login attempt detected. My stomach tightened. I logged in. Multiple failed password attempts. And something worse. A department store credit card I never opened, registered to my name. Address not mine. It didn't take much to connect the dots. My purse had gone missing in the old house a year ago, only to reappear 2 days later. I thought nothing was taken. I was wrong. Tyler. I printed every email, every statement, slid them into a folder labeled Boundaries in black marker. This wasn't just about leaving anymore. It was about protecting myself and building a case, if I had to. Midnight. A text from Tyler. You think you're better than us now? Watch your mailbox. The anger didn't spike this time. It flattened, sharpened into something cold and steady. They weren't just losing my money. They were losing their grip. And the more they realized it, the uglier this would get. 2 days passed. No knocks. No calls. Only the occasional text from Tyler. Sarcasm, veiled threats. I kept my replies short, always in writing. Per my attorney's advice. Every word, every date, every attempt to pull me back in, I saved them all. By the 3rd morning, the silence broke. My phone buzzed nonstop as I sipped my coffee. Screenshots from friends and neighbors. Denise's Facebook posts, written in that self-pitying tone she'd perfected. Some people think they can just turn their back on family. After all we've done, they leave us in the dark, literally. The comments were predictable. Mutual friends offering sympathy. Distant relatives asking what happened. Not one tag. Not one name. They wanted to paint the picture without giving me a brush. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I called the power company, the water company, the internet provider. Confirmed every account had been switched to their name. No gaps. No leverage. By noon, the doorbell rang. Camera feed. Dad. Alone. Hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. I opened the door, but didn't step out. What is it? His voice was calm, but edged. We've got a situation. The mortgage payment's due, and without your transfer. Not my problem, I said. His eyes narrowed. Do you even hear yourself? You've been part of this household for years. You don't just walk away from responsibilities overnight. I laughed, short, sharp, humorless. You mean the responsibilities you dumped on me the second I started working? The ones you never asked about, just took? He stepped closer. You think this new place makes you better than us? That you can just hide here while we drown? I'm not hiding, Dad. I'm just done being your lifeline. His jaw worked, like chewing on words he didn't want to spit out. Then he turned to leave, tossing one last shot over his shoulder. You're going to regret this when you come crawling back. I closed the door slowly, enjoyed the click of the lock. That night, the phone rang again. I ignored it. Instead, I got a call from a neighbor near the old house. Low voice, like sharing a secret. They're out in the driveway, arguing loud. Something about the bank account being overdrawn. Denise was screaming she can't buy groceries. Your dad kept saying, "It's your fault." I thanked them. Hung up. Sat still for a long time. They were starting to feel it. The weight I'd carried alone for years was finally pressing down on them. The next morning, I went to the bank. Met with a manager. Closed the last joint account with my name on it. No warning, no explanation. Just a signature. The folder in my bag felt heavier walking out than it did going in. Heavier, thicker, more complete. That evening, a text from Denise. "You've made your point, we get it. Just please help us this month. We'll figure it out after." I didn't reply. 2 hours later, another public post appeared on her profile. Funny how people change when they think they don't need you anymore. But life has a way of humbling everyone. For once, she was right. Life does have a way of humbling everyone. And theirs was only getting started. I locked the front door that night with the same care I'd taped boxes days before. Slow, deliberate. Each deadbolt turn was a promise. I wasn't going back. They could pound. They could post. They could tell every version of the story except the truth. The truth was here, with me, in the quiet hum of my own fridge, the steady tick of my own clock, and the simple fact that I no longer owed them a single cent. The next move would be theirs, and I was ready to let them make it. It was a Saturday morning when the email arrived. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee, scrolling through the usual clutter, when the subject line stopped me cold. Urgent, past due balance and notice of public auction. At first I thought it had to be a mistake. I hadn't lived there for weeks, and I had already pulled my name off everything tied to that address. But when I opened it, the mistake wasn't the message. The bank still had me listed as an emergency contact from years ago, a leftover 2 payments missed, no arrangement made, auction date set in 30 days. I stared at the screen and didn't move. Once this would have been the moment I panicked, grabbed my purse, drove over, and drained myself to keep their lights on. Not today. I hit print, watched the paper slide out warm and unbothered, and tucked it into my black folder labeled Boundaries. Before noon, the pounding came. 3 hard knocks, then the shuffle of shoes across my porch boards. I opened the door and stepped outside, letting it close behind me. Dad stood red-faced, breath already angry. Denise hovered tight-lipped, arms crossed like a sash. Tyler leaned on the railing, smirk crooked, as if he'd been dealt a winning hand. Dad didn't waste time. "You saw the notice. We can't lose the house, Maddie. You're going to help fix this." I held his stare and folded my arms. "No, I'm not," he barked, louder than he needed, pitching his voice toward the street. "You're still family." I didn't lower mine. Family doesn't use you as a wallet. Family doesn't laugh while you're humiliated in front of half the neighborhood. Family doesn't commit fraud in your name and expect you to just take it. Denise took a quick step forward, eyes cutting toward the neighbors peeking over hedges. "Do you have to make a scene?" "Yes," I said flatly, "because you had no problem making one when it suited you." Tyler muttered, "Unbelievable." Like he hadn't texted threats at midnight. I turned my head just enough. "You're right, it is unbelievable that I let this go on as long as I did." Dad's voice dropped into the old register, the one meant to pin me in place. "If you walk away from this, you'll be nothing to us." The words landed, small and mean. I felt nothing but air. "Then I'll be nothing to you and everything to myself." I reached into my folder, pulled out the printed notice, and lifted it where all of them could see the black letters that didn't care about tone. This is what happens when the person you've been draining finally stops bleeding for you. I let the page fall. It fluttered once and settled at their feet. No dramatic wind, no music, paper on wood. I took one step back and closed the door. The latch caught with a satisfying click. From behind the blinds, I watched them stand in the shape they always took. Dad frozen, jaw working around words he couldn't swallow or spit. Denise scanning the street, calculating angles, deciding which version to publish next. Tyler giving the page a little kick like it might bite him. No one bent down to pick it up. After a minute that stretched thin, they turned and walked away without another word. Inside, the quiet felt earned. I made another cup of coffee because I could. I didn't pace. I didn't draft explanations. There was nothing left to explain. I had given them the simplest sentence I had. I've moved out. The bills are yours now. Everything else was noise I no longer had to translate. That evening, I posted one line on my own page. Nothing more. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is the chance to stand on their own 2 feet. The comments rolled in like soft weather. Friends asking if I'd finally moved, neighbors congratulating me on the new place, old classmates sending a quick heart and moving on. I didn't name anyone. I didn't need to. The people who knew. The people who didn't need a map. I closed the app and stood on my porch as the air cooled. Across the street, a porch light flicked on. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and then decided it wasn't worth it. I thought about all the emergencies that had taught me to run faster than my own breath. How many times I had raced to mop up a mess that I hadn't made. The more I stood there, the clearer it became. This wasn't a crisis that belonged to me. It was an invoice finally addressed to the right house. My phone lit up on the kitchen table, face down. I didn't turn it over. They had already said everything they knew how to say. Threats, guilt, the word family used like a rope. I had already answered, "No, I'm done. I won't be your lifeline." Night thinned to quiet again. I washed my cup, set it upside down, and turned the deadbolt with my palm. The house breathed with me. Not triumph, not revenge. Just the steadiness that arrives when a door stays shut because you chose to shut it. In the morning, I would return to my ordinary. Coffee, sunlight on the counter, a list of chores that started and ended under my roof. Their story would keep spinning where it belonged, fueled by the same choices that had led to an auction date written in plain type. Mine would not. Mine would be the small, solid rhythm of a life I pay for and live in. And if the knocking came again, I knew exactly what I would do. I would let the door be a door. I would let their consequences be theirs. And I would keep my hands clean of a house that taught me how to drown. Coffee, sunlight, silence. Then the pounding. Fast, hard. Not the polite kind. I checked the camera. Dad, Denise, Tyler. All 3. I stepped out and shut the door behind me. No point letting their noise into my house. Dad spoke first. "You've made your point. Turn the accounts back on for a week while we transition." I met his eyes. No. His jaw tightened. "Don't be stubborn. Just a week. You've been taking half my paycheck for years. You made it clear at that barbecue. You wanted me gone. I'm gone. And so is my money." Denise's laugh was bitter. "Wow, cold." "No," I said, stepping down 1 step so we were closer. "Cold is laughing at your kid in front of neighbors. This?" I gestured between us. "This is warm compared to that." Tyler leaned against the porch rail, trying to look bored. "She's loving this." I turned to him. "No, I'm just done paying for people who think mocking me is entertainment." That afternoon, I opened my laptop and started cutting the last cords. Electric, gone from my account. Gas, removed. Internet, water, car insurance. One by one, severed. Each confirmation email felt like another brick out of the wall they'd built around me. My phone lit up. "Dad, this isn't funny." "Denise, you can't just shut things off. That's not how family works." Tyler, "Hope you're happy. You ruined dinner." I typed one line. "I've moved out. Bills are your responsibility now. Please don't show up uninvited." Send. Done. 2 hours later, the truck rolled up outside my new place again. I stepped onto the porch before they could knock. Dad stopped at the bottom step. "All right, enough of this stunt. Turn the accounts back on for a week while we figure things out." "No, you've been part of this household for years." "That's the problem," I cut in. "You took my money for years without asking. You mocked me for not having savings when you were the reason I didn't have any." Denise crossed her arms. "You're making this harder than it has to be." I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. "No, I'm making it exactly as hard as you made it for me." By evening, the group chat lit up with a flurry of messages. "Wi-Fi's down. Internet bills due. Electric's off again. You can't just walk away from this." I didn't reply. Instead, I called my bank and closed the last joint account they still had access to. No warning, just a clean break. 2 days later, Denise showed up alone. Sunglasses, forced smile. "Tyler's got an interview. Can you put the car insurance back in your name for a few days?" "No, it's my policy. If Tyler's driving, he needs his own." Her smile slipped. "You're punishing us." I leaned on the doorframe. "I'm refusing to be punished anymore." Her tone dropped. "You'll regret this, sooner than you think." I closed the door without answering. That night, my phone buzzed with a fraud alert. Suspicious login attempt. Department store credit card. My name? Their address? Tyler. I printed everything, added it to my folder. Boundaries, in bold black letters. They weren't just draining me financially. They were gambling I'd never fight back. They were wrong. The next time they came, I was ready. Folder in hand. Dad opened with the same line. You're still family. And family, I said, flipping the folder open, doesn't commit fraud in each other's names. I held up the paperwork. Recognize the address? Recognize the date? That was after my purse went missing in your house. Tyler looked away. Denise's lips parted, but nothing came out. Dad's face drained of color. This ends now, I said. You don't come here again without a lawyer present. You don't call me unless it's about something you're prepared to put in writing. You don't touch my name, my accounts, or my credit. Ever. For the first time, they didn't argue, didn't shout, didn't try to guilt me. They just stood there, watching as I closed the folder and stepped back inside. The door clicked shut, and for the first time in years, I realized I wasn't just defending myself. I was winning. Through the blinds, I watched them leave. The smirks were gone. So was the confidence. They'd wanted me to crawl back. Instead, I'd made them walk away. The morning after they left, the silence felt different. Not tense, not watchful. It had weight, but the kind that grounded me, not crushed me. I moved slowly through my kitchen, made coffee, watched the steam curl and vanish into the sunlight, spilling across the counter. It was the first time in years I realized I wasn't rushing. No one waiting to ambush me with a bill. No sudden, can you help me with, followed by a number I couldn't afford. Just stillness. And it was mine. By late morning, my phone lit up. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A moment later, Dad's name. Then Denise. Then Tyler. I flipped the phone over so the screen faced down. Seconds later, a text. Call us. This is urgent. Another. Electric's off. Food's spoiling. We have to talk. Denise, if you care about this family, you'll fix this today. I set the phone on the table and left it there. Their chaos wasn't mine anymore. For years, I'd carried their emergencies like they were my own heartbeat. Now they'd have to find another pulse. That weekend, I sat on the porch with the Boundaries folder open on my lap. Every printed email, every bill, every screenshot of texts where they'd asked, demanded, or threatened. It wasn't revenge. It was insurance. A record of how deep the drain had gone. Because I knew them, and I knew this wasn't over. But this time, if they tried to pull me back, I'd have more than my word to stand on. Sunday evening, an email slid into my inbox from a neighbor near the old house. They've been outside all day arguing. Denise says they might lose the house. Your dad's blaming everyone but himself. I read it twice, not because I doubted it, but because of how familiar it felt. The voices, the finger pointing, the way no one inside that house ever took responsibility. Then I closed the laptop. Not because I didn't care, but because caring had cost me enough already. That night, I took a slow walk through my new neighborhood. Kids chased each other in yards. A couple knelt in their garden, dirt on their knees. Someone grilled a few houses down, the smell of charcoal drifting in the breeze. For a second, it pulled me back to that last barbecue. The sizzle, the laughter, the sting of his voice cutting through the air. But here, the smoke was just smoke. No humiliation clinging to it. No smirk waiting on the other side. I realized then, freedom doesn't arrive with a bang. It seeps in the way you breathe without bracing, in the way you sleep without one ear open, in the way the phone rings and you don't flinch. When I got home, I posted one line online. Sometimes walking away isn't selfish. Sometimes it's survival. The responses poured in. Friends messaged to say they understood. Strangers thanked me for saying what they couldn't. A few shared their own stories, how they'd walked, how it felt. I didn't post it for sympathy. I posted it as a line in the sand. A reminder to myself, I'd made the right choice. That night, I slept with the windows open. Cool air moved through the room, carrying the scent of cut grass. No one slammed a door downstairs. No one barked my name from across the hall. Just the sound of leaves shifting outside, the creak of the porch settling, and my own steady breath. In the morning, I stood at the counter with my coffee and looked around my little kitchen. It was quiet. Not empty, quiet. I thought about everything I'd left behind. The bills that weren't mine. The guilt that had no reason to exist. The constant reminder that my worth was measured in dollars I gave them. I didn't miss a single piece of it. Dad once told me, "You're nothing without family." I'd believed him for a long time. Because when you hear something often enough, it starts to sound like truth. Now I know better. You're nothing without self-respect, without boundaries, without the ability to say no and mean it. With those, you're not nothing. You're more than enough. I walked out onto the porch, mug in hand, and let the morning sun hit my face. The white siding of the house glowed warm. The porch boards felt solid under my feet. I wasn't angry anymore, not waiting for an apology either. Because I'd built something better than their approval, a life they couldn't reach. If they figured it out, fine. If they didn't, that was fine too. Either way, I'd still be here. Breathing air I didn't owe anyone for. Living on terms that were mine alone. Sometimes the best revenge isn't payback. It's peace. It's closing the door once and never needing to lock it again. It's knowing you could open it, but choosing not to. And that choice, that's freedom.